Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Brokers Traders Espresso with me, Nzdusd. Today is the 30th of July 2018. So welcome everyone to this Monday morning, to this first trading day of this week. So in this session, we're going to have a look at a few instruments, see what's happening with them, how they closed on Friday, and how we could position ourselves for this week. So of course, but before we go into the charts, as always, quickly let's have a read through our risk disclaimer. So the content of this webinar does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Also, just a very quick reminder of our JFD Brokers website, and specifically if you go here and click on JFD Research, it will take you to our web page, which we update on a daily basis. We throw out different analysis here, so yep, feel free to check us out. Also, what you can do is you can register here for our strategic report, which we produce every week, and we send it out on Monday. Well, actually later on it will be sent out, and you can get that one and just see how we look at the markets and how we see the markets for this week. So yep, feel free to do that, guys, and yep, hopefully you can find it useful. But for now, let's have a look at the charts. So the first one I want to touch on is the FTSE 100. Now, FTSE is stuck here within this formation. So it's an ascending triangle, as you can see here. This is on a shorter term picture, of course. We are kind of continuing to trade sideways here, even looking at this here, even let's say where the kind of the triangle has started. Also, we can see that these two levels here, the 77.10 on the upside and on the downside the 75.10, continue to hold this index within this range, and certainly at the moment it's trying again to kind of break through this 77.10 mark, but again we can see that on Friday was unsuccessful. Still closed below this, and we're probably going to continue here trading here within this formation. Certainly keep a close eye on it, because if we do get a nice break eventually here through the upper side of the ascending triangle, then well, this could be opening the path towards higher levels. Certainly initially we'll make a quick pit stop here at around 77.40, but the better slightly better area of potential resistance could be seen here at around 77.95 mark. So keep an eye on this one, guys. Certainly could be a nice potential area to watch, but if that doesn't hold, well, it is opening the path towards these all-time highs that we saw here, and getting achieved in around the 22nd of May. So this could be touched again, but only of course if we get a nice break and a close here above the 77.95. But again, for us to see that, we would need to see a nice clear break and a close above this 77.10 mark, which continues to hold the price kind of down. So on the lower side, well, as you can probably see by the arrows here, we would need to see a nice good break here below this lower side of the triangle, and then we could aim for the 75.45 mark initially, but then actually a slightly better one to watch out for, slightly better area of support could be this 75.10. So something like this, guys. So for now we remain neutral. We're gonna continue monitoring this and see where it wants to break through. Looking at one commodity, should I say precious metal, so gold probably will take the spotlight this week, because looking at the weekly candle here, we can see that the candle was last week was closed here, like in the bearish zone, in the red zone. So either we're going to get a nice continuation here to the downside, or we're actually going to finally get some sort of reversal here back to the upside, maybe a bit of a correction. But judging by this picture right now that we see here on the daily chart, it doesn't seem that it doesn't seem that it actually wants to move higher. So at the moment, all eyes are on this 1215 mark, approximately there. This level proved to be a quite a good area of support. This was also seen as nice support here last year in July, around mid-July, and if we get a nice break here below, well, keep an eye on this low, of course, the 1211 slightly that we saw here on the actually as well mid-July this year. But if this continues to drop further, to be honest, I mean, there is a good likelihood that this could actually test the 1205 mark. Now the 1205 mark has been a very nice area of support here also that we saw in July last year, and that was around the 10th of July, something like that, and we could see a nice test of that area. Certainly keep a close eye, because if the 1205, as you probably understood, is not far from the psychological 1200. Now the 1200 could be a good potential area for a test, but to be honest, if this continues to drop, we have a slightly better level here, the 1195 mark, which has been the low that we saw here around the 10th of March. So could be a nice potential area for a support, but only, of course, if we see all these breaks here. First, of course, initially below the 1215, then below the 1205, and yep, there could be, like I said, could be a chance of touching this 1195. So for now, we're just observing the 1215 level on the downside, of course, and see what it wants to do with it. Does it want to rebound, or actually wants to break it lower and push lower, continue pushing lower? On the upside, well, we do have this 1237 that continues to prove itself as a very nice area of resistance, and certainly at the moment, I mean, because like I said, it's looking more bearish than bullish, we're kind of more skeptical about the upside. But nevertheless, I mean, this is gold that we're talking about. We could see a strong reversal back to the upside, but to be honest, if we get a break here and a close above the 1237, that doesn't really actually mean that we're going to continue pushing higher here, because we do have this this long-term upside support line that has been running here since December 2015, and this could act as a potential area of resistance as well. But to be honest, if that doesn't hold, the price down, then a move above it, and especially if we get a nice close on the daily chart above this line, then yep, we could start positioning ourselves for the 1261 level that acted as a very nice area of resistance here in the beginning of July, this July, and we could start testing that level. And of course, as you probably understand, that if we get a nice break and a close here, this could open the path towards higher levels. But let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. Let's see what it wants to do with this level first, with the 1237, if it actually wants to reverse back up here. But again, I'll repeat myself, the one that we're watching here first is the 1215. Okay, let's jump into a few pairs now, and the first one I want to touch on is the euro dollar, and certainly not a lot of surprises here, still within this range, and this bigger range, of course, between the 115-100 and the 118-400, approximately there. So for us to kind of become more, let's say, bullish on the well, in general, bullish on the, and more to start examining, let's say, the upside scenario in the near term, we would need to see a nice good close above this 118-400, and this is where we could start positioning ourselves for a possible touch of the 119-440, and certainly then the psychological 120 could be back on the radar. So of course, slightly above that, if we continue pushing higher, if it doesn't hold the rate down, then well, we do have some good levels here up there, and to be honest, the main one to watch would be this downside resistance line here that has been running since this peak that we saw in around the 16th of February. So we could end up moving towards it, and yep, this could potentially hold the rate a little bit. This is where probably the bulls and the bears could start fighting it out again over, you know, if who's going to take control here. And if the bulls win, I mean, we could see a break here and then maybe a total change in the trend here. So, but at the moment, as you can see, the overall picture here is more to the downside rather than the upside. But like I said, on the shorter term picture, or so let's say more near term picture, we could see a nice, if we get a nice break here above the 118.40, this could open the path towards these higher levels. But for now, we're stuck here. In regards to the downside, we need to see a break here and a close below the 115.100 in order to kind of start examining these lower levels like 113.700 or even the 113 mark, so something like that. So keep an eye on these guys, keep an eye on these two levels. Certainly from the shorter term perspective here, looking at the 4-hour chart, as you can see, we do have some good areas of resistance and support. Let me just first mark this little area here. This is the good resistance that we are seeing. Certainly I understand that it's quite far away from this, but to be honest, we rather wait until it would get here, and let's say if it starts breaking this level, then it could be interesting for the bulls to jump in and maybe drive this one a little bit higher. Initially, of course, there was the 117.60 and then maybe the 117.90. Certainly if these two get broken, then it could lead towards the upper bound of the range. So but this is what's in regards to the upside. On the downside, well, keep an eye on this little level right here, the 116.20 approximately there. Good potential area for a possible very short trade. So if we get a break here below this, this is where it could we could see maybe a further decline here towards this little level at around 115.75, which we saw it was the low that we saw here on the 19th of July, and we could eventually maybe aim for this one here. Certainly have a very tight stop loss, slightly above it, but nevertheless could be a nice area for a trade, for a take profit, number one, I would say, because if that gets broken, then we could actually start aiming for the lower bound of the range here. So basically something like this that I'm talking about. Let me just quickly put it here. And so we could initially, of course, target this level right here, around the 115.75. Certainly have your stop loss in place. Depends on you, of course, what you are comfortable with. You decide on your stop loss and on your position size, of course. But like I said, this could be your first target here for take profit. But if that doesn't hold, well, we could start aiming for this one, and of course, as you understand, this is a much better risk-reward ratio. But to be honest, this is another thing, a small suggestion maybe. Let's say if you do take a trade, something like this, then quickly, once you're in profit, put your stop loss just in front of your if you're in front of your entry price, just entry point, and just in case this suddenly reverses back to the upside and kind of takes you out here somewhere. So rather kind of be safe than sorry. Okay, that's what's in regards to the euro dollar and GBPUSD. Let's jump into that one, daily chart. So this one is an interesting one because of course, as you can see, we're continuing to move lower, but one thing that I really wanted to show you is this little parallel downwards moving channel. Let me just quickly draw this one here. So something like this basically. So we're stuck in this downwards moving channel, certainly until the upper bound is broken and closed above. Until the pair closes above, let's put it that way, we're still going to remain more to the downside rather than the upside. So keep an eye on this one, guys. Keep an eye on these sides. Certainly, if we do get a nice break here above this upper bound of the downwards moving channel, and specifically we get a close above this 132.15, this could be a nice indicator where it could turn actually more positive to the positive side, and we could see more bulls jumping in on this one and driving the pair a little bit higher. Certainly initially aiming for the 132.95 and then 133.65. So Keep an eye on this upper bound here, guys, and of course specifically keep an eye on this 132.15. This could be a nice close above this, could be a nice reversal here in the trend, in this near-term trend. But on the downside, well, let me just quickly jump into a 4-hour chart, and for us to kind of become, let's say, start considering these lower levels, we need to see a nice good break and a close below the 130.80. This is where we could start positioning ourselves for a touch of the 129.95. Certainly initially, of course, aiming for the psychological 130, but just slightly below that, we do have a slightly maybe better area of support at around 129.95, just 5 pips away from the psychological 130. So keep an eye on it, guys. Keep an eye on this downwards moving channel. Let's see if it wants to break it or not, or if it wants to just continue in this direction. Another one quickly I really wanted to touch on, guys, so USDCAD. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because, as you can see, we're stuck here in this little area here between the 130.70 and the 130.50. It's a bit tight here, but let's say on the bigger picture, for us to become, let's say, more bullish on this one, we would need to see a nice good break here above this 130, 120, 25 mark, and this is where we could start positioning ourselves for higher levels again. But as you can see, we're stuck here, and we're also at the short-term direction continues to look more bearish, continues to point to the downside, but nevertheless keep an eye on it, because we could end up moving towards this upside support line, this long-term upside support line that has been running here since around 2nd of February this year. We could see a touch here and then maybe a rebound back to the upside, but to be honest, if this doesn't hold this time, well, this could be a total change of trend here, and we could see maybe further declines and a further move lower. But probably the chart here is, to be honest, is more self-explanatory, and as you can see, we're stuck here. We're stuck between these two lines, so probably the movement here is going to be somewhere around here, around these two key, well, not the two, but the key levels here. So something like this, guys. So keep an eye on it. Let's see what it wants to do with the 130, 125, or actually does it want to break the 130, 130.20 zone, which is right here, and move lower towards this upside support line. And the last pair that I really wanted to touch on very quickly is the NZD/USD. Certainly at the moment the trend is more to the downside, but on a very short term, from the very short-term perspective, we can see that we are stuck here above this tentative support line here, this upside support line. So for us to become more comfortable, let's say, with the downside, we would need to see a nice break here below this the support line, where we could see initially these levels getting tested, this 0.6715 and then maybe the 0.6690, and of course if these two don't hold, then well, we could see a further decline here in the rate, and this could open the path towards lower levels. But on the upside, we do have this one here, the 0.6850, which a break of which could open the path towards these higher levels here. So basically at this point in time, we're quite neutral on this one. We're just going to continue observing it and see what it wants to do with these two lines. Either we get a nice break here above the 0.6850, or actually we continue moving lower here and we break this tentative upside support line. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope you found it useful. I do apologize, but went over my time limit, but still, nevertheless, thank you for hanging around. If you want to join me later on at my Traders Tea Time, and that's 13:15 GMT time for 14:15 British Summer Time. But for now, have a nice European session, and bye bye.